Jane Evans, the Lasting Life Change Parent Coach. Have you come across the idea of emotional competence? It may not be something that you just weave into your everyday parenting, but I'm wondering if you are aware of the massive benefits to you and to your children of being able to be more comfortable with your own feelings and more comfortable with their feelings, because that's really what emotional competence hinges on. Now, it's a phrase that I heard this morning used by Dr. Gabor Mate, who's one of the leading childhood trauma and addiction experts in the world, and he was talking about their subjects. And it was a great interview, and it immediately made me think of the importance of this when we're raising children, because so often what pulls us into losing it with children, with seeing them in a really negative view and kind of holding negative beliefs about some of their behaviours maybe, is our maybe slightly stunted emotional competence. Okay, so what do I mean by it? So emotional competence is the ability to be with our own feelings, not be really activated by them, not be sent into fight, flight, or complete shutdown, or maybe over befriending by them, but just to be able to notice them, allow them, settle them, and then carry on. Now, that sounds so simple, doesn't it? But we know it isn't, and particularly when we're dealing with children and all their feelings. But if we can do that for ourselves, notice, allow, settle, then we can do that for and with the children in our lives. So it's pretty cool when you think about it. And it means that we are then able to stay in the present moment with our child in a very authentic way that for them feels like safety, because we're not overwhelmed by our feelings and their feelings, and we're really there, and we're like this safe, interested, present container for their feelings, which is so powerful. Because from that, they just get lots of subconscious, subliminal messages about my feelings are okay, I can feel them, I won't be overwhelmed by them, and I can come back to feeling settled and soothed again. So that the more that we do that for them and with them, it allows them to eventually grow up with all that internalized and wired into them, so that they won't be very reactive and take life as so hard and either get very angry with people or push everything down and kind of sacrifice themselves for other people's emotions and behaviors. And the most wonderful thing about this is it allows you to be a parent who doesn't take your children's behaviors and emotional reactions personally. Because it's a funny thing, because obviously it's all interconnected with the relationship that you have with your child, but your child isn't able to be there and think, I will purposely do this to mummy or daddy or nanny or whoever it is who's caring for them. They just don't have that capacity. But because we're so bound in their emotional state, it feels personal, and of course it collides with all the uncleared emotional states that we've got trapped inside of us from when we were children and we didn't get this. So being emotionally competent means that we have to have a good subconscious clear out of all the rubbish that we've carried through with us. Then it allows us, for ourselves, but for everyone around us, to always be able to be compassionately curious. So the great example that Gabor Mate gave is he was saying about, how if somebody is rude to you, or they say something that you could be very wounded by, or it could make you feel really cross. So for example, say I was explaining something to you about, you know, the reptilian brain and how that keeps us in survival mode. And most children spend most of their lives in the reptilian survival brain and the emotional memory brain. In fact, so do adults, but it's very evident in children. And I was partway through my explanation, and you just looked at me and you said, "Yes, I don't really care, Jane. I'm just not that interested," which, you know, could, for the person saying what they perceive to be interesting and useful, be very triggering. So I could end up feeling like, oh my God, that was so rude, and you know, how dare they say that to me? Don't they know who I am? And you know, don't they realise how useful this is for their children, and how essential it is to their parenting? And I could go down a horrible, dark kind of rabbit hole, and then when I'd calm down, so triggering sort of lots of defensive emotional reactions, and then when I calmed down, I probably would then have felt maybe very ashamed of myself and felt like, oh God, I'm so boring, and I wasn't explaining that very well. And then I might have felt quite sad and frustrated with myself and berated myself. Do you see how you can go down those rabbit holes super fast? But the person, there was no intention from the person. They just needed to let me know that they'd lost interest or they didn't find it very interesting. So if I'm able to go through that process for myself in the moment of, ooh, I've just had a bit of a reaction to what they've said. Okay, I'm allowed to feel those feelings. Just take a breath. You know, I often put my hand on my heart these days because I know that will settle my body. Okay, and then check in with them, but really be authentically curious about, oh, I'm so sorry, are you okay? I'm sorry, I got carried away. And mean it. Then I might discover that actually they just had a really miserable morning, or they just got a text from somebody to say that, you know, there's a really complex situation when they go home tonight, or who knows what. But if we're not able to be emotionally present in that way and emotionally competent, then we can't do that for the adults around us, and we sure as hell can't do it for our children. And it's definitely the most important thing for our mental health, our physical well-being, and for the children. So being able to notice, oh, I have an emotional response, feel it in my body, for that to be okay, and then to let it go on its way. And honestly, that's probably only a state that I've got to in the last year. So if that sounds interesting to you and you think, I would like some of that, then let's have a chat, because you know, we could explore whether, you know, maybe where your level of emotional competence is and ways that you could increase it. I offer coaching, I have an online program, but let's just have a chat anyway. So take care and be curious about your emotional competence. It's kind of a fun thing to do an inventory of. And yeah, do get in touch if you'd like to talk more.